There is a truth about women that most men refuse to see, and it's this. Silence is not confusion, distance is not an accident, and the lack of warmth you feel is not a phase. It is the purest signal of disinterest. And yet, men convince themselves otherwise. They rationalize cold behavior. They invent excuses for her absence. They turn a blind eye to the red flags waving directly in their face. But I will tell you what few dare to say aloud. If a woman does not want you, she will show you in ways so subtle, so devastatingly precise, that most men never recover until years later, when regret has already hardened into bitterness. You must understand this from the very beginning. A woman's interest is not something you negotiate for, plead for, or chase into existence. It is either present or it is absent, alive or it is dead. When it is alive, her actions will flood you with clarity, her eyes soften, her words reach for you, her presence becomes magnetic. When it is dead, she drifts, she withdraws, and though she may remain physically near, her spirit has already left. But here is the cruel reality. Most men cannot accept this. They cling to a ghost. They try to resuscitate something that never belonged to them in the first place. They mistake politeness for affection, convenience for love, obligation for passion. They spend years entangled in one-sided connections, draining their own strength while she quietly prepares to leave. And when she finally does, they act as though it was sudden, unfair, undeserved. Yet the truth is, she told them, through her silence, through her absence, through her actions, that she was gone long before she physically departed. Today, I will reveal to you the 7 undeniable signs that a woman is not interested in you. These are not vague hints or trivial mood swings. These are deep psychological truths, rooted in her nature that no man can afford to ignore. If you miss them, you will waste years chasing shadows. But if you learn to recognize them, you will save yourself from heartbreak, confusion, and humiliation. This is not about anger toward women. This is about clarity, dignity, and the courage to see reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. The first sign is absence, not of her body, but of her effort. A woman who is interested in you will find reasons to be near you, reasons to speak to you, reasons to create moments where the two of you can exist together. She will respond quickly. She will lean in. She will ask questions because her curiosity is ignited by your presence. But when that flame is gone, so too is her initiative. Suddenly, she has no time. Suddenly, every message is answered with delay. Every conversation feels like you are dragging a stone uphill. Her excuses sound logical, but they are nothing more than shields protecting you from the harsh truth. She does not care enough to prioritize you. Men in denial often tell themselves she's busy. They imagine her work, her studies, her family obligations are pulling her away. And while those things may be real, they are never the true obstacle. Because when a woman desires a man, she carves time from stone itself. She will stay awake when she is tired. She will answer between meetings. She will walk through rain just to see him for 5 minutes. The absence of effort is the first and loudest sign that she is not invested, that you exist only as an afterthought in her life. Think about this with brutal honesty. How often have you been the one holding the entire structure of communication? How many times have you been the one sending the first message, planning the meetings, asking the questions, holding the weight of every interaction? If you remove yourself for even a day, does she notice, or does the silence stretch endlessly, comfortably, as though your existence is irrelevant to her world? That is the answer you must face. The Stoics taught us not to argue with reality, but to accept it. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." In the same way, if she is not showing interest, do not create stories to explain it. Do not weave illusions where there is only indifference. She is telling you the truth with every delayed reply, with every forgotten plan, with every moment she chooses someone else's company over yours. The absence of her effort is not accidental, it is deliberate, and until you accept it, you will remain chained to a woman who has already freed herself from you. The second sign is the erosion of respect. A woman who is genuinely drawn to you cannot help but show it through the way she looks at you, the way she speaks to you, and the way she values your words. Respect is not a performance. It is a reflection of how she perceives your worth as a man. When that respect fades, her actions shift in subtle but unmistakable ways. She interrupts you mid-sentence. She dismisses your opinions with sarcasm. She speaks to you with an edge of impatience, as if your presence is a burden rather than a blessing. And here's the painful truth. Once respect is gone, interest has already died. Many men tolerate this erosion because they fear confrontation. They laugh it off when she makes cutting jokes at their expense. They ignore the sting when she rolls her eyes or mocks their ambitions. They tell themselves it's just her personality, or that she's under stress, or that every couple bickers. But deep down, they know. They know that the woman who once admired them now secretly questions their strength. And once admiration collapses, attraction collapses with it. Why does this matter so deeply? Because respect is the foundation of desire. A woman may be fascinated by your appearance. She may enjoy your charm, but what truly binds her eyes? Interest is the way she esteems your character. When she honors your discipline, when she admires your self-control, when she feels the weight of your presence, then her respect feeds her attraction. Strip that away and she no longer feels drawn toward you. She feels above you, distant from you, even resentful of you. The Stoics understood that dignity is a man's fortress. You cannot allow anyone, least of all a woman you desire, to erode that dignity. If you accept disrespect once, you set a precedent that will poison every interaction that follows. And the more you excuse it, the more she loses the ability to see you as the man she once could have loved. This is not about demanding reverence or domination. It is about recognizing when a bond has decayed into contempt. A woman who respects you will stand beside you. A woman who does not will eventually stand against you. And the moment you feel her tone, her words, her actions chip away at your dignity, you must see it for what it is. The second undeniable sign that she is no longer truly interested. The third sign is emotional distance. A woman who is truly interested cannot help but share her inner world with you. She will reveal her fears, her hopes, her frustrations, her victories. She will allow you into her mind and heart because intimacy is the natural expression of her desire. When she values you, she craves your presence not only for pleasure, but for comfort, guidance, and connection. Yet, when she is no longer invested, the walls begin to rise. Suddenly, her words are shorter, her stories fewer, her emotions hidden behind silence. She speaks of her life in fragments, offering you surface-level details, but never opening the doors to what she truly feels. At first, you may not notice. You may think she's just having a bad week, that stress is pulling her inward, that she simply needs space. But time reveals truth. Days pass, weeks pass, and the warmth that once flowed freely becomes a desert. You begin to realize that you no longer know what she is thinking. You no longer feel the pulse of her heart. You are near her physically, yet emotionally she has already gone. The greatest mistake men make here is trying to force intimacy back into existence. They push harder, they demand answers, they pry into her moods with desperation. And the more they push, the further she retreats. What they fail to see is that emotional distance is not the cause of her fading interest. It is the symptom. She has already disconnected, and what remains is only the shadow of what once was. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Understand this. You cannot force her to open up. You cannot beg her to let you back in. Her silence is not your puzzle to solve. It is her choice, her signal, her truth. And the more you chase it, the more you strip yourself of power. A woman who desires you will offer her emotions freely. A woman who does not will withhold them effortlessly. That withdrawal is not neutral. It is the third undeniable sign that she has lost interest. Do not lie to yourself. Do not confuse her distance with shyness or temporary mood swings. Emotional distance is disconnection, and once it becomes her default, the bond between you is already fractured beyond repair. The fourth sign is the absence of physical affection. Attraction is not an abstract idea. It is a force that manifests through touch, through closeness, through the instinctive ways two bodies gravitate toward one another. When a woman is genuinely drawn to you, her physical language cannot lie. She will lean toward you when you speak. Her eyes will hold yours longer than necessary. Her hands will find excuses to touch your arm, your shoulder, your face. Even the smallest gestures, straightening your collar, brushing something off your jacket, resting her hand near yours, are signals of her interests. But when that interest dies, her body will betray the truth her words may conceal. Suddenly she becomes guarded with her touch. She pulls away when you lean in. She stiffens when you reach for her hand. The kisses become mechanical, the embraces shorter, and intimacy feels less like passion and more like obligation. You sense the difference, though you may try to deny it. The spark that once lit up every encounter has been extinguished, and in its place remains only politeness, habit, or guilt. Men often make the mistake of overlooking this shift. They tell themselves she is tired, stressed, or simply not in the mood. And yes, there are moments when that may be true. But when absence of affection becomes the pattern rather than the exception, the truth is unavoidable. She does not feel the pull toward you any longer. Her body, once alive with attraction, now recoils with indifference. The Stoics remind us to confront reality without illusion. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't be overheard complaining, not even to yourself." This means, do not disguise what you feel. Do not whisper excuses in your mind just to avoid pain. If her affection is gone, acknowledge it. Do not plead for it. Do not attempt to reignite it through begging or bribing her attention. Attraction that must be begged for is already lost. Understand this deeply. A woman's body speaks the language her heart cannot hide. If she desires you, it is effortless, undeniable, magnetic. If she does not, no amount of persuasion will change it. When her touches fade, when her warmth evaporates, when her presence beside you feels cold rather than alive, you are witnessing the fourth undeniable sign that her interest has already died. The fifth sign is her irritation with your presence. When a woman is genuinely attracted to you, your very existence feels like a source of comfort to her. She enjoys your company, even when nothing is happening. Quiet car rides, shared meals, moments of silence. You could be sitting in the same room doing separate things, and she still feels secure, content, alive in the simplicity of your presence. But when her interest fades, that same presence begins to feel heavy, even irritating. Suddenly, everything you do seems to bother her. The way you speak, the way you move, even the smallest habits she once ignored become ammunition for her discontent. Pay close attention to this shift. Irritation is not born out of your actions, it is born out of her disconnection. She is no longer drawn to you, so the energy you bring feels like an intrusion. What once was endearing becomes annoying. What once was attractive now becomes something she critiques. And here is the cruel reality. When attraction is alive, flaws are invisible. When attraction is dead, flaws are magnified. Many men make the mistake of responding to this irritation with overcompensation. They become overly agreeable, desperately trying to appease her moods. They silence themselves, walk on eggshells, or mold their behavior into whatever they think will stop the tension. But this only accelerates her loss of respect. A woman cannot be drawn to a man who surrenders his presence just to avoid conflict. Your willingness to shrink only confirms to her that her irritation is justified. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Her moods are not under your control. Her irritation is not a puzzle you can solve. The only control you have is over your own response. And the strongest response is not to argue, not to beg, not to bend, but to recognize what the irritation truly means. It is not about the dishes, the jokes, the forgotten details. It is about the erosion of desire. When she treats your presence as a burden rather than a blessing, understand that something fundamental has shifted. The air grows heavy between you, the warmth has evaporated, and every interaction feels like walking through thorns. That is not temporary tension. It is the fifth undeniable sign that her heart has already moved away. The sixth sign is secrecy. A woman who is truly invested in you will live openly. She will share her plans, her whereabouts, the details of her daily life, not because you demand it, but because transparency flows naturally when interest is strong. When she desires you, she wants you to be part of her world, to know her schedule, her friends, her goals. But when interest fades, a veil begins to fall. Suddenly, she is vague about where she's been. She avoids specifics when you ask about her day. Her phone becomes guarded, her social life becomes private, and pieces of her world that were once shared freely now disappear into silence. This secrecy is not always malicious. It may not mean she is unfaithful or plotting betrayal, but it does mean she no longer feels compelled to include you in her reality. You have shifted from being at the center of her life to the edges, and so the details no longer feel necessary to her. You become a guest in her world rather than a partner in it. And if you ignore this, the gap between you will widen until you are left wondering how a stranger emerged from the woman you thought you knew. The mistake men often make here is to chase the secrecy. They demand explanations, they interrogate, they monitor, they attempt to control what is slipping through their fingers. But this only pushes her further away, because secrecy is not the disease, it is the symptom. The disease is disinterest. When she no longer values your role in her life, she withholds herself from you, and no amount of questions will force her to give it back. Marcus Aurelius warned, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." A relationship without honesty, without openness, is no longer right. If she feels no obligation to share, it is because her investment has already collapsed. And the longer you tolerate this secrecy, the more you dishonor yourself by clinging to something that no longer exists. When the woman you are with begins to live a life behind walls, when you sense she is no longer transparent, no longer open, no longer eager to share her truth, you must see it clearly. That hidden life is not just privacy. It is the sixth undeniable sign that she has already stepped away from you in heart and mind. The seventh sign is indifference. A woman who once cared for you will react. She will argue when she disagrees. She will challenge when she feels unheard. She will even fight with you when the bond matters enough to her. Conflict, though unpleasant, is a sign of investment because passion fuels it. But when her interest dies completely, she no longer reacts at all. She becomes indifferent. Your victories no longer excite her. Your failures no longer move her. Your presence no longer stirs anything within her. She lives beside you, yet you feel invisible. Indifference is the most devastating sign because it is silent. There are no raised voices, no dramatic arguments, no obvious departures. Instead, there is a quiet void where her energy used to be. You could speak for hours and she would offer nothing more than nods. You could leave for days and she would not notice. You could pour your soul into her and receive nothing but a hollow response. And the most painful part is this: indifference often masquerades as peace. You tell yourself, at least we're not fighting, at least things are calm. But that calm is not love. It is absence. Men in denial cling to this false peace, believing that no conflict means stability. But stability without passion is the graveyard of relationships. A woman who is indifferent is a woman who has already detached emotionally and spiritually. Her body may remain, but her heart is gone, and no amount of effort or all it can resuscitate what indifference has already buried. The Stoics understood this reality well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." In love, the same principle applies. Do not act as though interest will last forever. It is mortal, it can die, and when it does, pretending otherwise only prolongs your suffering. Indifference is the final nail. It is the seventh undeniable sign. When she no longer cares enough to fight, to question, to even notice, she has already walked away in her heart. The man who ignores this truth condemns himself to years of quiet misery. But the man who sees it clearly, who accepts it without bitterness, finds freedom. Because once you recognize indifference, you can finally stop chasing shadows and reclaim your strength. Now that you know the 7 undeniable signs, the question remains, what do you do with this knowledge? Most men, even when they see these truths staring them in the face, choose to ignore them. They cling to hope, they wait for change, they convince themselves that love can be negotiated into existence. But love, my brother, is not a bargain. Attraction is not a contract. It is a flame that either burns on its own or not at all. And if you must force it, it was never yours to begin with. You must understand, a woman who is truly interested will never leave you guessing. You will not have to decipher cold messages, tolerate disrespect, beg for affection, endure irritation, accept secrecy, or live under the shadow of her indifference. Her interest will be obvious. It will move through her words, her actions, her very presence. And when it is absent, the signs will be equally clear. The tragedy is not that she no longer wants you. The tragedy is that men continue to want what does not want them. Surrender, losing their dignity in the process. The Stoics taught us to value what is within our control and release what is not. Marcus Aurelius himself reminded us, if someone does not value you, value yourself all the more. Think about that. The end of her interest does not mark the end of your worth. It does not make you smaller, weaker, or less of a man. It simply reveals where you stand in her story. And once you know that, you have a choice: to keep bleeding yourself dry for a ghost, or to walk away with strength and clarity. Most men never learn to walk away. They linger, waiting for scraps, hoping for miracles. But those who embrace reality, those who see the signs and accept them, those men are free. They do not waste years chasing what is already gone. They do not surrender their dignity for a woman who has already moved on. They stand firm, they let go, and they rise stronger. So, look closely at the woman in your life. Do you see effort, respect, affection, openness and passion? Or do you see absence, contempt, distance, irritation, secrecy and indifference? The answer is already there. Do not run from it. Face it with courage. And if you find she no longer desires you, do what most men never dare to do. Let her go and reclaim yourself. That is where your true power begins.